Good morning, everyone. It's Wednesday, so it means you get to see my lovely face here on Talking Reds. And as of this week, I'm joined once again by Mr. Neil Atkinson. All right, Neil?
Hello there.
His shirt game's a little bit better than mine this week, but I'm not upset about that.
I've come alive, to be honest with you. When I woke up this morning, I remembered I was doing this with Mo. So showered, conditioned. I'm glowing from head to foot. Glowing, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, if it means that I have to keep my standards up, then I guess it's something I'm just going to have to do.
That's the way we're going to have to all work now.
But let's get on to the show. I'm looking forward to coming in sparkly suits in about 4 weeks' time in a game of one-upmanship. Like Mike Mills out of REM. I really don't want to think about where this could potentially go, but I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people commenting in on different things that we can wear. Maybe that's what we should do for the 100th show. Everyone just could wear the most ridiculous outfit they could possibly find.
Yeah, spats.
Talking Reds fashion show, you heard it here first. Okay, let's talk about actual football for a change. And there's something exciting that's happened. We've finally heard where and when we will be playing on our US tour. And Neil, the who we're playing is probably the most exciting thing for me, because first up we've got Borussia Dortmund, then we've got Manchester City again, and then finally Manchester United playing in Charlotte, North Carolina. Then we're playing in New Jersey at MetLife Stadium, and finally Ann Arbor, Michigan. So what are your thoughts, first of all?
I'm really excited by the virtue. You know, it's fun, these tours, and I know that what the club shouldn't do and what no one should do, and what we shouldn't do is patronise the American audience. They know they're only getting pre-season friendlies, and I think that's really important. They know that this isn't the nuts and bolts of competitive football. But that said, there's something in each of these games that gets your attention and does make it really quite exciting and interesting. And I think that it's something which, there should be this idea of well, great, because this suggests again part of Liverpool being in the big time, and that the perception is Liverpool are in the big time. The perception is in the United States Liverpool are a big time club, and we're one of the I think we're the two biggest clubs in the country, us and Manchester United, and I think you can see that, as you said to me before, about the size of the stadium.
I was going to say they're all massive stadiums. I mean, the Carolina Panthers Stadium in Charlotte, we have played there before. We played AC Milan, and I think 70,000 turned up.
Wow.
So that tells you. But the stadium in Michigan, it's the second biggest stadium on the planet. It's 107,000 capacity. I dare say that the nosebleed seats might be slightly restricted viewing, but even so, I mean, the idea of seeing that many Reds just filling out stadium and cheering the boys on, I'm kind of excited about it.
It is, I mean, I was in the MCG in Australia for 2013, and it was almost it was quite a moving experience, and that shouldn't be the case for a pre-season friendly. And we can be cynical about this stuff, and I think a few of the sort of the wider Liverpool support and where people were a little bit cynical about it until you saw the scale of it. And then when you did see the scale of it, and certainly being present in it, it was like, whoa, get on this. This is brilliant. I honestly, I'm hoping we're going to go over for the tours, and the idea of being at that game, and if it sells out, being part of 100,000 people watching the mighty Reds. Wow.
I mean, I can't even think of what we can compare it to over here, because obviously we have the further of our stadium, but in terms of sheer numbers, this is like Rolling Stones on the American Idol kind of numbers. And the games themselves, I mean, it is pre-season. We have to admit that. The first game's taking place a week after the World Cup final. But there is some intrigue for it. I mean, let's face it, it's possibly going to be the first sight of Naby Keita in a red shirt, because he's not going to the World Cup. Someone else who isn't going to the World Cup and who might well be in that game is Christian Pulisic. And there's been lots of links between us and him and Manchester United, of course. And, of course, he plays for Borussia Dortmund, who our own manager used to manage. So there's going to be plenty of intrigue around that game in particular. And one of the things that I always enjoy about pre-season is the young lads. The guys who wouldn't necessarily normally get a chance. And you never know there's going to be quite a few of them who are potentially putting themselves in a position to really make the manager think about his transfer market deals. I'm thinking of Harry Wilson, I'm thinking maybe even Ryan Brewster.
Curtis Jones, Brewster will all feel as though they can look at Trent Alexander-Arnold's trajectory and go, I can have a little bit of that. And I think that will be exciting. And I think it's important. What I do hope is we're pretty quick on the turnaround of moving on the boys for whom this isn't an option anymore. I think that I don't want another summer of having people tell me that Ryan Kent should be starting Liverpool's front three. I can't live through another one. I just can't take it. So can we not do that, please? You know, he looks like a really good professional, a really good player. He looks to me like he could be top end of the Championship, bottom end of the Premier League. Trust me, that makes him one of the best 0.0001% of people who play football. Yeah. So let's be honest about that. But for me, he doesn't look like a front three player for Liverpool. We do, though. You know, it would be nice if we can be moving in that direction where a few of them have been moved on, and the others you're able to look at and say, yep, I can see how to do that. Really interesting one, actually, is Grujic.
Yes.
You know, if there's ever a player who... It's a big summer for him and a big summer for him and Liverpool, and they're two quite different things in that you look at the role he's had and what Cardiff have done. You can quite easily make an argument that the best thing that Grujic could do would be to come back to Liverpool and whack a transfer request in. That he could actually just say, listen, I'm quite clearly good enough to be playing at the very least top end Championship, probably week in, week out, middle of the Premier League. I'd like to get a move and get me regular football. On the other hand, Liverpool could say, well, you can do that here. For me, he's the interesting one out of all the lads who are on loan, him and Wilson. But with Wilson, you do sort of wonder if it's working for him at Hull, but he'll not quite get the chances at Liverpool.
Wilson, you can imagine being a little bit more patient, I think, than Grujic. The interesting thing for Grujic is that if he does get into the Serbia World Cup squad and he does make a big splash there, again, the interesting thing is, does it make him more likely to be in the squad, or does it make him a more saleable asset? I guess we'll have to wait and see. Now, someone else in the squad who's not been talked about for the last few weeks is Joe Gomez, but thankfully he has made a comeback. There was pictures of him in training yesterday, looking happy, looking like he can run and kick a ball again. And it's interesting when you think about Joe, because over the last, pretty much since he's been out injured, Trent's form has been skyrocketed, and Joe's kind of become the forgotten man a little bit. I mean, I noticed when the Young Player of the Year nominations came out last week, there was lots of people saying, where was Trent? No one was saying, where was Joe? And up until the point he got injured, he was probably ahead of him. I mean, in terms of getting to the World Cup squad for England, he's certainly ahead of him.
No, I think the interesting thing for Gomez, what I want to see Gomez do, and I'm quite serious about this, is if we are signed, sealed and delivered Champions League football by the time we go to Chelsea, I'd really like to see Gomez start at centre-back at Chelsea. So not this idea of him just coming back in and getting his place back at right-back, but now that we've got Nathaniel Clyne back in the fold as well, and Trent, I think that there's the opportunity for Joe Gomez to end the season with 1, 2 or maybe even 3 games in central defence, which might not seem like a lot, but it becomes something that he can learn from, the manager can learn from. The manager will be looking for information. Does he need to go and buy a centre-back this summer? And all of that sort of stuff feeds into this, and it might well be that he's able to say, well, you know what, my right-back options are Clyne and Alexander-Arnold, my centre-back options, I can use Gomez in there. Or it might be that he looks at it and he says, it's a season too soon.
It looks like the kind of situation that's a win-win for everybody, because obviously Gareth Southgate wants to see more of him playing in a big atmosphere. Chelsea, fair enough, they might not necessarily have much to play for, but Chelsea against Liverpool is never not going to be a big game. I like the idea of him getting that opportunity to audition now, because I do think that we're going to be looking to do our transfer business a lot earlier than we have done in previous years, not just because of the World Cup, but because of the earlier start to next season, and how much Klopp puts on pre-season, how important it is to him.
There's a really simple sort of timeline point on this, which is that, and we will keep forgetting it, and trust me, I am writing next season, Mo. August the 9th is transfer deadline day.
Yeah.
August the 9th is transfer deadline day. So the idea of we want to get our transfer business done early, well, absolutely, absolutely, because not least because we can't do it any later than August the 9th. And in there as well, we've just talked about Liverpool being in the United States for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 weeks in July, or a week and a half in July, but for a period of time in July. That takes that a little bit out of the run as well. Completely agree with Mo, and I think that you're going to see that. And also, we've already done a bit of it early with Naby Keita as well, and you just sort of think that there might be this idea that they can sit around and say, what can we sort? But we can't do it that late. No. So the idea of Oxlade-Chamberlain playing 3 games for Arsenal and then coming to Liverpool won't happen, can't happen.
And all Arsenal fans rejoice about that, I'm sure. But no, it's an interesting question to expand, because I was going to ask you, who would you have as your starting right back for next season? But it sounds like you're leaning towards moving Gomez away from being a permanent right back.
I don't see the point. I honestly don't. I think if you've got Gomez in there and he's playing, if you keep, but there's no notion of letting him go. So no. I wouldn't have a starting right back. I think we've seen the value this season of being able to protect legs across the course of the campaign. So for me, I would be of the view, Alexander-Arnold and Clyne, have Gomez in there as fourth centre half, conceivably, maybe even a little bit higher, depending on his performance, and then from there you're just looking to have numbers and have bodies. The only other thing that might slightly knock this, and why Liverpool could get away with 5 centre-backs, is because it wouldn't surprise me. There's one Liverpool player who I think this season has a perfectly reasonable point of whacking a transfer request in, who's had a lot of games this season. That's Moreno. I think if you're Moreno, you're at the point in your career, in your life, where you could go and say, Gaffer, come on, I couldn't have done any more. This lad's great. I could do, do I need to move? And it might be the manager says, to be honest, mate, yeah. And then I think what you might actually have is the idea that Klein can play right and left. Klein plays right and left. You've got Gomez who can play right, Alexander-Arnold who can play right, and then you're able to probably have 4 other defenders, centre-backs in there, who you're able to say, right, everyone's going to get enough games to cover all these positions. Everyone will get enough games.
Well, Gomez has played left-back as well. I mean, if you go back to the beginning of the last season, he was going to be the one who we all thought would end up being James Milner. So you're right, it will be some hard questions for Jurgen to answer in the summer regarding contracts, but going to be an exciting time anyway. I mean, everything to do with this club right now is exciting. So why would that be any different? Let's look at the papers, shall we? Okay, so we're here with the papers, and there was another game on last night. Thankfully, we're in that period of the season where there seem to be games on all the time. And even better, one of our rivals dropped points, Neil.
Tottenham, Spurs pay penalty. This is a great example of the maxim, I'd rather have points on the board than games in hand. So Tottenham have dropped some points here in a frustrating game. What a lot of this should do is, there's a few places we've gone this season, Liverpool, and we've won, and afterwards Liverpool supporters and the wider media have played it down. We went to Brighton and scored 5, and no one else has looked like doing anything like that all the way through the campaign. And listen, there's good times to play teams and bad times, and we might have caught Brighton at the right time. It might have been the point where it was a little bit hard for them, and they hadn't quite matured into the Premier League side that they now are. This probably keeps Brighton up, which is awesome, because it means we can go back next year and have a great night, first and foremost. But hello to the Brighton cop. But there is this, and so it helps us. It helps the idea we can finish ahead of Spurs this season, which I do want to do. It helps the idea that 3rd place is better than 4th. That's literally how football works. So we kick on and sort that out. But it was good to see that result last night.
Yeah, I think 4th would have felt like a false position considering how we've played over the course of the season. And obviously, 3rd means that it's a progression from last year, something we're moving forward. I have to think though, Spurs, considering they left Dele Alli at home, they're probably more thinking about the FA Cup right now.
They probably are, but there's something else in this. Spurs are now 2 points behind us, but they're only 8 clear of Chelsea. Now Chelsea have a game in hand, but you'd always rather have the points on the board. But what I mean by this is, if there's a side that Chelsea can catch, if you're Chelsea, you're only looking at Tottenham. Yeah. You're now thinking, right, well, it's Tottenham who are the vulnerable ones, and that's why it's really important this week that we go to West Brom, we get another 3 points on the board. That puts us on to 73, and then we are at the point where Chelsea, and that's the 12:30, by the way. Yes, that's the point where Chelsea are looking at it going, oh, this is hard, isn't it? The Liverpool are over the hill and far away. We know who it is that we're going to target, and then they'll be able to go from there. So I think it's significant if we can just keep that pressure up this weekend. Obviously, we only want to beat Rome. Obviously that's the big deal, but it's massive for next season. We can see the value of it this season. Let's just keep living the streak.
We can box it off completely before we get to Stamford Bridge and then make that trip an absolute party. Speaking of an absolute party, Accrington Stanley, for those of you who live in England and are over the age of about 36, you'll hear me saying, who are they in your head? Well, they are the team that have just been promoted to League One for the first time since 1968 on the lowest budget in the league, the 2nd lowest attendance average of the whole 4 divisions. Yeah. With a guy, John Coleman, who's basically Mr. Accrington Stanley, been there 16 years in 2 stints, and it's just a good, hard-working club who found their way to a bit of success after a long time, and we're all happy about it.
We are. I've interviewed John twice now. When I say interviewed, it was more that we had a chat, because that's what John does. Because he'll talk to anyone about football. If you see John on the street of Liverpool, feel free to stop him and have a chat to him about any bit of football you want. He's just a really good fella. I liked him a great deal, but his commitment to that club, but his commitment to his own principles. You sit down and talk to Johnny, he'll say, we play football. Yeah. They haven't got out of that position. that division by kicking. They haven't got out that division by playing long ball stuff. They'll play the right ball, but trust me, they play football. And John's other commitment is to his players and to young players and to development. And that's how they've done this on this budget. And you know, it's a cause for celebration and jubilation. Really, I think they'll be fine when they go up. I think there'll come a reckoning in 2 or 3 years' time where it might, you know, a couple of players leave, you struggle to replace them, and they may well slip back down. But there's every chance they're top half of League One because the togetherness that they've fostered and that they've got. And I just think it's a great story. But it's more than a great story. It's just a real achievement for a great football club that's committed itself to the idea of what they are.
Yeah, and the kind of games they can look forward to next season, like the likes of going to the stadium and live, for example.
Everyone's obsessed with Atkinson playing Sunderland, man. I was thinking about this last night. Like, people are literally dining out on Atkinson playing Sunderland like it's the greatest thing in the world. And I can sort of see why.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're Sunderland, you're thinking, Christ, it's been miserable enough. This we're now the butt of this joke. Sunderland, the football club with the most miserable 18 months of any football club possibly ever.
They are the butt of everyone's jokes. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that I heard recently that they were having to try and stop the fans coming in, trying to close the gates so it's less attendance, to stop Newcastle fans coming to their games to laugh at them. I mean, when that's happening, you know you've had a really bad time of it.
You're in real trouble.
Now, we've got some more shows coming out for you today, as we always do. Neil?
We've got The Big Question with Gareth Roberts, which is an absolute belter, and we've got Rob Gutman's Overview, which is also an absolute belter. It's basically where Rob says how great Liverpool are for a bit, and lists all these games we're going to win, and then we may or may not win them, but it doesn't matter. We all get that moment, and we get to share in it and in the joy of it together. So yeah, both of those are out today. Also, there was a transfer show. Our Gutter show was out yesterday as well. I'm sure that was excellent. I wasn't here, to be honest with you. I was out and about.
I see.
Yeah. I was in London yesterday, just seeing some people and mooching about. So then I'm back, but I'm back now.
Anything you want to share?
Not yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Watch this space, guys, and watch this video and tomorrow's video with Robbo. Up the Reds.